All right, so we want to determine the intervals where the function is increasing, decreasing, and or constant. Okay. Now here we have the graph, right? So given the graph, we should be able to answer these questions quite easily. Okay, so what does that mean for a function to be increasing? Okay. So in order for a function to be increasing, it means as we move left to right, which means as x is getting larger, right? So as we move left to right, we can certainly see that x is getting larger. But in order for a function to be increasing, that means the y values are getting larger. Essentially, the graph is going up as we move left to right. Okay. Now let's take a look here. All right, as we move left to right, we see that the y values are getting smaller. Okay, and in this case, we see that this would be decreasing, right? So here we see that the y values are getting larger, right? Remember, we're moving left to right here, essentially. We're moving left to right, but the y values are getting larger, and then here, the y values are getting smaller, okay? Now, constant would just mean that the y values are not getting larger or smaller. In this case, if a function is constant, that would just be pretty much just a horizontal line, okay? And we don't see a horizontal line here anyway, right? Okay, so in this case, constant, we could just say none, okay? Or you don't even need to write this down, right? But this function is not constant anywhere. But what about increasing? Okay, now, in order for a function to be increasing, once again, let's denote this way, right? From this point here, right? You can tell from this point to this point, right? The y values are getting larger. Now, how do we give the answer, though? We give the answer in terms of the x intervals, right? So as x goes from 2 to 3, the y values are getting larger. We always use parentheses, okay, for increasing and decreasing. We never use brackets. We always use parentheses. Let's think about that. Why would we do that? How come we don't use brackets? How come we use parentheses? Remember, parentheses means we don't include the endpoints, right? So if you think about this, okay, it's decreasing from 1 to 2, right? But that 2, right? Do you include that in the decreasing part, or do you include that in the increasing part? Okay, so that's sort of where the conundrum is. That's why we all use parentheses. That takes care of that issue, right? So it's increasing from 1 to 2, right? So as you go from 1 to 2, the y values are getting smaller. And similarly, as we go from 3 to 5, right? As we go from 3 to 5, the y values are also decreasing. And now, once again, always use parentheses. Don't be fooled by the filled-in circle here, or the closed circle, right? For increasing and decreasing and constant, we always use parentheses.